Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of July 2025. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. Not really a surprise because it seems to have had something to say to everyone. So yeah, it's come out for all of the readings so far. Before we begin, apologies if I'm looking a little bit shiny. It's very, very warm here at the moment. And additionally, apologies if we lose the camera at some point during the recording. We'll still have the overhead one, that seems to fare better, but it's crashed a couple of times in the heat. So anyway, other things to tell you. If the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. The link for that will be in the description box below. You are looking for the link that takes you to Self-Fi, not the link that takes you to the channel memberships. That's for something else. Oh, excuse me. Alternatively, you could come join us on Circle. There you can get access to all of the extended content for no additional cost beyond the membership fee every month, and we do weekly energy readings and whatnot in there that can quite commonly run to an hour or so. We have an extraordinary community of people in there who are all very talented, some really talented people in there too, so the conversations are pretty good. And additionally, we run live classes over there, so if you want a chance to participate in those, and you know, they're there. If you want them, you can take them. If not, you can watch the recording later. You know what to do with those links. Right, we got through the intro without the camera crashing. This is wicked. So let's flip the camera around. If it crashes from this point on, I'll just turn off this little camera here and it'll all be sound. So yeah, let's have 3 cards for Scorpio, please. What is Scorpio? What's going on with Scorpio? Oh, goodness. We have the Queen of Wands. God, I forgot what she was called there for a second. In your recent past. What about current energy for Scorpio, please? 2 of Wands. Okie dokie. And what's coming towards Scorpio for July? All right, I think we have 2 cards there. We do. We have the 7 of Wands and we have the Temperance card. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the 7 of Swords, followed by the Knight. The Knight's been putting in quite an appearance, interestingly enough. I don't know if this is... It might well be referring to the Uranian energy, because Uranus will be moving into Gemini and things will change dramatically when that happens. So far Uranus has been, well, for the last 8 years or so, in a very slow moving sign. It's been in the sign of Taurus, right? Not a place where Uranus is generally considered to, I wouldn't say not do his best work, but it's certainly more difficult for him. And I think any Taurus that you speak to, and obviously that's your opposite sign in the zodiac, will attest to the fact that it's been interesting. Of course, we shouldn't forget the fact that Uranus has been in opposition to anything that you have in the in the Scorpio ruled house that you're in. So whether you're watching for your sun or your ascendant or your moon, they could be in 3 different places. But whatever you have in Scorpio has been opposed by Uranus. That energy will be shifting. It'll be shifting to the house that is ruled by Gemini. Things will pick up a pace. Then I think it's possibly been the missing piece of the puzzle in terms of kind of... I don't think at this point that we can really work out where we're going. But I think we're going to start seeing much more of what that's going to look like as Uranus moves into Gemini. That's the way that I would put it. So anyway, 7 of Swords at the bottom of the deck can talk variously to either, you know, dishonesty. I don't feel like that applies here for you, Scorpio, or taking a bit of a gamble on something. Now, the fact that you're presented with crossroads energy in your in your current energy suggests to me that perhaps there might be some aspect of a gamble, a risk, a strategy that you have been sitting on the fence about. Have you been sitting on the fence? No, I think you've been going full bore for something. And I don't know if this 2 of Wands is acting as an interruption or whether it's a necessary part of the path that you've been going full bore on. I'm not sure. Nevertheless, let's get some clarifiers out and then hopefully we'll get some clarity on what's happening here. Tell me about this Queen of Wands, please. Thank you. Right, we have the Seven of Cups with the Knight of Wands. Holy shit. There's a lot of fire here in your reading, Scorpio. I think that's pretty cool. When I did the meditation before I started your reading, I felt the magician. The magician was coming out, and I definitely knew that. And here he is. And what about these two cards here? Seven of Wands and the Temperance card, please. So, Nine of Swords, Ten of Wands. I actually really like that for you. I don't want that to sound like sadistic or anything. It's because I can see what it means. Yes, these are uncomfortable cards, but look, they are consecutive, 9, 10, and I'm going to just put this on the deck to prove that I haven't fiddled this at all. At the bottom of the deck, the Ace of Pentacles. Not the bottom of the deck, sorry, the last card out, the Ace of Pentacles. This is wonderful because this is the cycle of the tarot, right? The whole tarot moves in cycles, and you can split it by subdivisions, and that they all are cyclical. And a major one in the minor arcana is this movement from Ace to 10, but also from 10 to Ace. You know, we're always cycling like this. So when we reach the end of something, whatever that is closed out, it's stopped, and then we get, if everything's moving the way that it should do, we will get some sort of Ace that is coming in to bring a new energy to the table. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Seven of Pentacles. Interesting that we've got that double 7 there. I find 7 to be quite a scorpionic number, to be honest. On account of the fact that 7 is a number of seeking truth. It's not always necessarily a number of finding truth, but it's the number of being motivated to go find it. It's a number we associate with occult and scientific interests. Ostensibly, I think that we haven't actually worked out that those are the same things yet. Oh, interesting. We've actually got 777 here. So the combination of the two of them together is speaking to some sort of thrust, some sort of push that is taking us in a direction that feels like it's got some layer of truth, not layer of truth, like a spotlight of truth sitting at the end of it. Whether we're finding it yet or not is a different matter, but the Seven of Swords is about taking the risk. It's taking the strategy, it's rolling the dice, it's going for the gamble. The Seven of Pentacles is the recognition that something in the environment is not right. And I tend to think about this as a very environmental card in the first instance, right? So, you know, people irritating you, job not fulfilling, you know, anything that you're involved in really not giving you what you want. It is the classic card of the recognition that perhaps you are growing out of your comfort zone. But it's like the first step of that, because the Seven of Pentacles for me is like it's like a pause. We're like, hang on, something's not right here. What is the thing that's not right? Now, if you've been with me a while, you know that we take that then a step beyond, and we recognise that some aspect of ourselves is out of alignment with an environment that we were previously aligned with. And so what's happening is we are recognising the schism between what we were, you know, aligned very nicely with previously, and how that now is in a state of change. And, you know, baked into the Seven of Pentacles is this idea that there is a decision to be made too, just like we see with the Two of Wands. And the decision is, do I continue to invest in a place that I have been, a situation that I'm in, a relationship that I'm in, either just every which way that I run my life right now? Or is it time to clear the ground? Go scorched earth, if you will. And start again. I've got a towel hanging up at the window to keep the sun out. Give me a second, I just want to mop my face with it, because get pretty warm when you do tarot readings anyway. The addition of that and the lights and all the technology in this room, plus then 40 degrees of sunlight outside, and it's just a recipe for baking your own personal cake. Anywho, so whichever way you cut it, we're inching closer to, I don't think it's an inching actually, I think you're probably sprinting at this point, Scorpio, towards the edges of your comfort zone, ready to push harder possibly than you've pushed in a very long time to get out of it. Now, what does that mean in reality? What does that mean in terms of the way, it might be showing up in your life here? Well, there's the distinct possibility that for some of you, it's a change that feels like it is inherently risky. Perhaps it is compromising some aspect of your material situation. Maybe you're going to have to downsize your house or move house, or you're going to have to take a pay cut or something like that. But the gamble is that if it pays off, that would be something, it may not go that way, right? Ever as it does with risk, right? We're not going to choose to leave our comfort zone unless what we're trying to move into is something that is inherently better than where we are. Now, we feel the discomfort of where we are, and I think you recognise that it's time to leave the comfort zone. Whichever way this resonates for you, and you must take it as it resonates to you. If you're perfectly happy with your work environment, then I'm clearly not referring to that, right? Apply it to your own circumstances with discernment. Because this could be a purely internal situation for you. It could be, I am sick of feeling wounded and pained by X, Y, and Z. I am genuinely quite ready to put all of that down and not think about it again. Like, just because I have released it, because I have let it go. Either way, the comfort zone is the important thing, and the upcoming imminent removal of Scorpio from the comfort zone into something else is the pattern that we're seeing here. Now, I don't know if it's because Scorpio are really good at leaving their comfort zones, or that to be a Scorpio is to be potentially inherently uncomfortable. I'm not sure. But I feel like there's a challenge here for you that is much, much bigger than much you faced for a long time. And that's why it makes me feel like it's not kind of obvious. It's not an obvious thing. So if it was an obvious thing, you'd be having, people chattering about, oh God, Scorpio, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? The other, and I feel like to some extent you would be able to close that out from your thinking. You'd be like, no, I'm going this way. This is what I'm doing. I have faith in myself. All is good. But there's a little tingle of something here. There's a little bit of anxiety, which means it's not an ordinary move, and it is something that really means something to you. And at the same time, you feel it pulling so strongly, you can't really opt out, It explains why we start off with the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands for me is Aries energy, right? So we've got an aspect of initiation there with that. But it's a very passionate energy. Now, the Queen is the internal feminine representation of the energy of fire, where we see, the King of Wands being the external representation of that. And for me, the Queen helps us make sense of what our drives and our motivations are, what our passions are, and this is information that she gives to the King, and then the King, he takes the action, he does the moves. And this is true even with a very active, maybe slightly masculine Queen that we see here in the Queen of Wands. It's not to say that she's not feminine, but she's very much in touch with her masculine side. We might see the King as her masculine side because, these aren't people, these are energies, largely speaking. So, you could have been rolling this around for quite a while, trying to make the decision about it. I don't feel like that's it. I feel like a lot of the last 6 months has been some really deep internal work for you, some really deep realizations, some really deep revelations that you would never really be able to expect anybody else to understand, right? But I think it's been quietly and very subtly life-changing for you. But whatever this is, whatever the decision is that you've made, it's like it activated something. And the result of that is a passion that you have not felt for a long time, right? Not because you've been living a boring existence, but because this is new. And it's new to you, and you can only really see it for what it is because of the ways that you have changed in the last 6 months, right? So it's an ignition of something that's like, oh, wow, okay, no, now I know about this thing, now I'm involved in this thing, I really want to go into this thing. And we've got the Knight of Wands underneath there. Now, the Knight of Wands is another very passionate character. He doesn't have perhaps the finesse of the King and the Queen of Wands, energetically speaking, but he does have the ability to be entirely fucking present with everything. The problem with the Knight of Wands, if there is indeed a problem, is that he is impulsive, sometimes a little reckless, sometimes a little thoughtless. But this is a byproduct of being a creature that lives so very much in the moment. You know, what are consequences if you only exist from moment to moment to moment, right? Consequences are for earth signs, right? That's kind of the feeling that I get off the Knight of Wands, which is tremendously exciting, but it's also potentially a little bit chaotic to be around. Now, the fact that we've got the combination of them together and we're leading with the Queen of Wands rather than the Knight means that I think some of the more reckless and thoughtless aspects of the Knight can kind of be put aside. Instead, what we've got is a real intensification of desire, like really strong desire to move in this direction. The thing is, it's being tempered somewhat by this Seven of Cups. The Seven of Cups is about illusion, and it is about confusion, right? Often it's about having far too many fucking options and not being able to choose between them. Sometimes it's about not really being able to decide which way we're going. Okay, so for some of you, you felt the passion before you found the thing. That makes perfect sense, thank you. You can feel the energy building, you can feel the drive beginning to build, but it feels sort of ass backwards because you're like, where's the thing that all of this energy is supposed to be going into? I don't know where it is, I don't know what it is yet, and I don't know how I feel about it if I don't even know what the thing is. Let me get the Waite-Smith out here because this is really quite interesting. The more I talk, the more I feel like it's that deep knowing that sometimes we get, right? I've got an 8th house stellium, so I've got a pretty heavy Scorpio influence on my chart. And so I get this and I know this and I understand this quite well. Like, sometimes you can feel the cogs of the universe moving before there is any kind of external representation of that, right? And you're like, it's almost to the point where you kind of feel like if you looked up at the sky, you would see things kind of shunting into position. And there's a great deal of excitement that comes off the back of that because you know there's something blowing in, you know there's some sort of change, you know there's something that you're about to get your hands on. But until it actually shows itself, it's not presented in front of you. Now, whether that's what you're feeling, and if it is that, I'm not surprised because you're a Scorpio and you're incredibly fucking sensitive, right? So you would be able to feel this stuff moving around. I got this Knight of Wands, Seven of Cups. We've got the Moon. We've got the Two of Wands. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go with that being the interpretation, actually. So scratch what I said about, kind of firing yourself towards something that's firing you up. I think you're fired up and you don't know why. I think you're fired up in a generalised direction, but the specificity of it, the detail of it, if you will, is kind of missing at this point. You know it's coming in. You know very strongly that it's coming in. I mean, the reason that I have settled on that as an interpretation is because we've got the moon card there. The moon card is representative of the sign of Cancer. We've just had Jupiter move into Cancer, so that might be affecting things possibly for you. But more specifically, we're talking about really strong intuition when the moon comes up, and we need it when we're dealing with moon kind of stuff, because what's missing is the detail. Exactly as I said, right? We're missing the detail. The moon will illuminate so much, but it won't give you everything. That's the job of the sun. But you can at least tell whether you've got flatlands in front of you, whether you've got mountains in front of you, whether there are trees on that mountain. You might not be able to tell what kind of trees they are, and if there are any, I don't know, rivers or stuff like that that are on the mountain. Because things are obscured. We don't have everything that we need, but there is a deep intuition that says, this is the way that I am going, right? We're following this path right here. And there is a deep intuition that the decision, the path, the fork in the road is incoming. It's upcoming. We know it's not too far away. What I really like about that, though, is even though you don't know what it is, you're being really peaceful about it. It's like getting really good with uncertainty, Scorpio. It's like, it's fine. I know it's coming, and I know when it comes, I will recognise it, and I know then I can make the decision, and this is all just going to work. There's a lot of faith in the way that you have been approaching this. And I like that. I like that a lot, because truly I think the thing that is going to get us through the next few years is faith, and faith in principally self, more than anything else, principally self. But then from there, you know, the universe, the belief that the universe is a generative and benevolent thing, which I know a lot of Scorpios probably even now are going, I can't believe I believe that, after the life that I've had and all the shit that I've been through, and the times where, you know, I felt anything but that. To be sitting here and going, no, I fucking trust, and it's cool, it's fine, it'll come along when it's ready. Not falling into obsession about it. That's really interesting too. You found a way to cultivate peace and patience, despite also fielding all of this energy, all of this creative potential, and not exploding inside your own head. That's quite something, Scorpio. So then when we come into your current energy, here we have the Two of Wands. We have arrived at the fork in the road. And, you know, just as you knew it was coming in, it's absolutely here now. Now, one of the reasons why I feel like this is much more of an internalized thing for you is the fact that we're not seeing a lot of external movement. I mean, you might say that the Knight of Wands is the external movement, but I feel like that's just kind of movement to keep you busy while you're waiting, while you're patient for whatever is coming in. And the cards that we do see are speaking to internal states quite strongly, I think. I've been bitten by so many mosquitoes today, I can't even tell you. My legs are just fucking coming up in lumps everywhere. Must have that sweet blood, you know. Anyway. But this is very much in accord with what we're seeing with the Seven of Pentacles as well. Because if you hark back to what I was saying about the Seven of Pentacles, which is recognising that chafe, recognising that this doesn't feel right anymore, but still not quite being able to put our finger on what it is. You know, there's a corresponding internal state that is also doing the same thing, or at least pointing out that we no longer energetically align with it, whatever this is. Like, so we're getting ready to go, to move, to boost out of this comfort zone. And the fascinating thing here is it's a bit of a no-brainer, Scorpio. Well, we can't always say that about decisions that we have to make. And sometimes there's, you know, a whole list of pluses and minuses that we need to make for things, you know, and particularly when something that we're doing feels like it's a bit of a gamble, it feels like it's a bit of a risk. It's like, can I shoulder the burden of this potentially going wrong and potentially not working out in my favour, or is it just simply not worth the risk of this? Like, this is something that you have to work out for yourself, right? But sometimes when you get the Two of Wands show up and then you have two cards after it, what you can do is say it is quite simply a choice between this and this. Now, I don't think it's quite that, but in terms of your own development, in terms of the ways in which you have changed, and most specifically in this last 6 months, because I don't think anybody has been immune from whatever the fuck 2025 has been so far, you know. But if you have been actively managing your attention, if you have not been allowing yourself to be sucked into the drama, and I actually, very, very specific about this. This event will have been and gone by the time you see this video, but we've got an upcoming Mars-Uranus square. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen there, but I think it's safe to say that it's going to be, at the very least, more of what we've been experiencing in the last few days. I'm thinking about, city on the west coast of America, and also countries bombing the shit out of each other, right? So very much in keeping, but the Uranus aspect of it is bringing something very sudden that we haven't seen yet, we haven't seen so far. So, I'm sure, like I said, by the time you watch this, you will know exactly what that was. How did I get onto that? Are we talking about tension? I can't even remember. Fuck knows. Okay. All right then. Well, fill in the gaps, because my brain just farted, and apparently it's not going to share whatever train of thought I was on there. I was talking about no one being immune to the big energies that have been happening. Yes, curating attention, not being sucked into the drama. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of drama this coming weekend, and yeah. Anywho, the Eight of Cups is about the reclamation of power. It is one of 4 cards in the Minor Arcana that talk about the reclamation of power, and every single one of them is numbered 8. We've got the 8 of Wands, the 8 of Swords, the 8 of Cups, and the 8 of Pentacles. They are ways in which we can achieve a level of mastery in something such that power is returned to us, that which we didn't have before. Now, in the case of the Eight of Cups, it's the incredible power that comes from leaving emotional baggage behind, right? There is movement here, but it's very subtle. It's very much of the emotional body. It's like I refuse to be bound to an old way of feeling about things. I give myself permission to leave and henceforth go look for my 9 of Cups, right? That's what we talk about quite often with the Eight of Cups. And it's because in other cards, like the cups are stacked in such a way that it makes the absence of the 9th cup very, very evident, right? So the eye is drawn to it, and it's like this chap who's got his cloak on and he's got his stick, he's off there, he's going to look for his 9th cup. We don't see that here. But interestingly, what we do see is this big mountainous mass that feels very much like the kind of mountain I was talking about when I was talking about how the moon illuminates the landscape, right? So we've got an idea that there's a mountain there, but we don't know what it is. And rather than falling into a state of despair or fear or any of those things, I feel like there's just this big acceptance, like, yeah, whatever happens, it's going to be difficult moving forward, and that's absolutely okay. Like, I don't feel a need for you to withdraw and protect yourself here. If anything, I feel like you're kind of standing out now. You're feeling this ability to be able to stand forwards and go, without being hubristic or anything, just like, okay, I can deal with what this is. the reason that it's not hubristic is because A, you're not saying I'm better than anything else in the world, and therefore, shaking your fists at the gods and all that sort of stuff, which we know, generally speaking, doesn't tend to end too well for mortals. But also because it's an internal state for you. We talked a lot in, I'll go back in like 2020 and around about that time, about the deep-seated fear of ambush, right? Emotional ambush, and how Scorpio was sometimes a bit like a spider sitting in the middle of the web, right? And you've constructed this beautiful web for yourself in your own mind, and it's full of it's full of possibilities, right? Variables. So here's this one string, and it says, if this person says this thing and then they do this thing and I say this thing, and then it's got loads of strands going off, in loads of different directions, and the whole thing's fucking connected. And you were carrying this around in your head for the longest time. It was a kind of state of hypervigilance, is what it was. But you were trying to play 5D chess, and successfully, I have to say, in some ways. Because nothing had the opportunity to come at you by surprise, because you had already mapped all this shit out in your head, right? The problem with that is that gets very, very heavy. It's very energetically expensive to keep generating day after day after day. And I think it wiped a lot of Scorpios out, energetically speaking. And some of you might well have experienced things like chronic illness and things like that off the back of the weight of the need to try and protect yourself from everything, right? The fear of the things. I don't feel that coming from you at all, Scorpio, right? Because no matter what happens next, whatever is in that mountain range, whether this is just one big surface or whether this is like 4 different mountains that just happen to be stacked in front of each other like this. It's like my view out there. You look out there at night time and it's just this. You look at it in the daytime and you can discern between the hills, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, right? But I don't feel you sitting here going, oh, well, I can't see all the detail of that yet. There might be bear traps in there, or there might be, I don't know, pygmy warriors in there or something, cannibals. Whatever it is that your brain might conjure up as a reason why this would be a really bad idea. Like, there's none of that. You feel to me not necessarily standing there like a warrior with a big sword going, I'm so brave, I'm going to take everything on. You're just like, I'm here and I have faith in myself, in the universe, in God, in the creator, in the source. Whatever happens, it's right that it happens. There's nothing avoidant here at all, Scorpio. And to have this incredibly solar image showing up. Now, I know the Magician's not associated with the sun, it's a card of Mercury, right? But look at those sunbeams that are emanating out. Like, the Magician is fucking backlit here. The spotlight is on you, and not in a way that you are even trying to avoid there either. You feel to me like you're standing forward, going, hello, I'm Scorpio. And there's no fear associated with that. There's no, let me just slip into the back here, let me slip into a dark hole over here. It's none of it. You're just standing in your own light. And you're ready to start being the creative force that we have felt building for quite a while now. Here he is. The fork in the road isn't really the fork in the road. It's kind of the thing that you've been waiting for. But I wonder if, particularly with the existence of the Magician here, whether you've been sort of waiting for the universe to give you a nudge, and all that's really needed is you just do the thing. I felt this, something similar to this when I was getting ready to leave the UK, and the hard copy of the court order came through that said that I could take the children out of the country, and I'd been sat there waiting for that, you know, and then it arrived, and I was like, all right, I've got it. And then I waited for a week. I waited for, and I don't even know what I was waiting for. I think I was waiting for someone to tell me to go. And I remember calling my partner, who was over here at that point, doing house repairs and stuff. And I said, like, I think I've been waiting for someone to tell me to go. Oh, it's okay, you can go now, off your pop. And I said, and I think we just go now. And he said, do you think? I was like, yeah, I think literally it's just a case of picking a date and then go. And he was like, we should do that then. And I was like, yeah. But the strangest thing for me was the fact that I was like, what was I waiting for? Like, sign written something in the sky, fireworks. Like, it didn't come. Because in that moment, when I was standing, you know, in the resultant, I guess, kind of state of accomplishment of what I had kind of been working through for the last 18 months, inside, and what I had been battling outside as well, became the authority in my own life in that situation right there. And so it fell to me to be the authority, and I hadn't noticed that. I got so used to kind of waiting for the next fucking shoe to drop from the court. What was the next thing that I was going to be asked to fucking, yeah, anyway, you know. And I do wonder if there's something of that here. You've been waiting for the sign, and it's like, nah, Scorpio, you're the fucking magician. You just start creating shit now, you know. So when we move into July, what we have is the very awesome Seven of Wands, which also seems to have been showing up quite a bit recently. And we have the Temperance card. And this is quite interesting because the Temperance card, you know, we talk about balance and all those kind of things. We talk about triumph over adversity and all those kind of things, right? These are all aspects of the Temperance card. It also represents the sign of Sagittarius, right? So it's inherently fiery, like a lot of the other cards that we've got on the table. But there is a feeling of divine orchestration, divine timing, divine intervention, divine something that is coming along with this Temperance card today. You know, the Seven of Wands is the energy and the stamina to get up and start doing the things. Fuck me, it's another 7. I didn't even notice. What the fuck? This is what happens when you use multiple decks. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cards numbered 7. Very, very interesting. Because there's a synthesis here, Scorpio. Do you remember I said at the beginning I felt like 7 was quite a Scorpio number? Not everybody can really engage with 7 in a meaningful way, I don't think. But Scorpio definitely, just naturally there. And they go looking for truth, and they go looking for truth in places that other people wouldn't be able to go. And I think for the most part, like, you bring back what you learn, and ultimately the goal is for Scorpio to be able to share, at least to the extent that other people would be able to understand, right? And I think rather than sharing bits of information, this is about Scorpio sharing themselves, right? Something that would have triggered the shit out of you a few years ago, but now something that, as we've discussed, I think you're kind of comfortable with. So we've got drive, we've got energy, we've got motivation that is coming from Mars in Leo here with this Seven of Wands. We've got confidence also flagging up with this Mars in Leo. And we have a little touch of the divine being involved in here too. It's not like the universe has stepped in and blessed everything for you and made it awesome, Scorpio. I don't think really you could point to any point in your life where that has happened. But what I'm liking here about what I'm seeing in these cards is that we go from a fractured perception that is not giving you an accurate representation of reality, to the ways in which things become very hard as a result of that, coming to an end, coming to a completion. These two cards are, even though this is a Sag card here, it's a very dark card, and this is a very dark card, even though it's quite white, there's a lot of darkness on it, right? It's this sense of you having travelled through the dark, reaching this point of completion, and then getting ready to plant your attention, your energy, your focus, like everything you've got, actually into the ground to create something solid. Now, for some of you, right, this is straight up going to involve moving or changing job, changing career. Maybe you've had something that's been a bit straight-laced for the longest time, and you're like, no, fuck this, I'm going to go and become a wizard or something, right? Or an astrologer, or a tarot reader, or something, right? It would be quite a major shift. But it feels like this journey through the dark is actually you having done that 7 stuff, gone off and found a truth, and gone off and found it in a place where not only would other people not think to look, but actually people wouldn't want to look. And what's coming back here is the opportunity to plant something that sees you share that in future. Let me pull some more cards here, because something's completing here in July. Something's coming to an end. There's no doubt about that at all. 9 of fucking swords, right? Yeah, it's coming to an end, and I don't even feel a sense of grief off you about this, right? So it's not like, buckle up, Scorpio, July is going to be fucking awful, but you'll feel better at the end of it. That's not what this is at all. It's, hey Scorpio, all those times you went into the dark, and every time you came back you were just a little bit different. It's like you've done that enough times now to know what has a real inherent value. And between the Magician and the Ace of Pentacles, and even the 7 of Swords and the 7 of Pentacles, I feel like you are ready to put yourself out there. In which case then the Temperance card becomes the accompanying opportunities that you didn't ask for, but come and find you in no way that you can really properly explain, right? I think this is going to be a month of surprises for you, twists and turns certainly. But I feel like every aspect of this, each one of these little surprises that you're you're accepting rather. Not catastrophizing, not being hypervigilant and trying to map out 57 different routes that this might go in your head, but simply accepting and doing and being. I think each one of these is going to feel like the angel putting its hand on your shoulder and being like, you ready for the next bit, then the next bit, and the next bit. I think it's very special to be a Scorpio. I don't, I spoke last month about it makes me feel deeply uncomfortable to think about Scorpio kids, right, and what they go through that brings them to the state that they're at, right? But how how important it is that they're willing to go into the dark again and again and again. You know, you really are a special breed. A very special breed. And absolutely critical to what comes next, for sure. But I think this is it. I think you're ready to start sharing. I think you're ready to allow yourself to be guided, and I think you're ready to allow people to see you. And I think what you have to share is very, very special indeed. And even if you can't quite put your finger on what that is yet, like, I feel you'll get some indication of it this month, because that's just what this month is full of for you. We are fully ending a cycle which sees you going into the dark to discover things about yourself, agonize over them because everything that you discover really fucking hurts, and then come back again and go, well, that was intense, but I'm still here. You know, it doesn't feel like that. There's something very shamanic about the way that you are presenting now, Scorpio. And I think those who are ready for that kind of energy are going to come and find you, because now you're backlit. Everybody can fucking see you. Yeah, and you're good with that. That's the important thing. You're good with that. I love this. Right. I'm going to the extended now. You're very welcome to join me over there. If you would like to do so, you can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I would be delighted to see you in either place, as always. But if that's not for you, that's absolutely fine. Just I read a sentence in a book. I'm a big fan of bibliomancy, right? So getting messages from books, you flick through it until you feel like they need to stop, and then you read the first thing that your eyes alight on the page, and there's a message in there for you. And I got one from Ankara Gwyn once, and I had no idea it was what I needed to hear, but there it was. And it was, proceed as if you are needed. And I want to share that with you today, because you're so very fucking needed, Scorpio. I don't think you even realise how the extent to which you are needed, but it will become clear over the next wee while. Certainly July seems to be where it starts, you know. So know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.